I spent many years in a classroom as a struggling student. It would take many years before I was able to connect with the process of learning in a meaningful way. Some of the challenges that I experienced were related to the style of instruction that was used. A lot of my classes were taught in a very passive style. In this passive style, a lot of one-way information was provided, but there wasn't a lot of interaction that occurred in the classroom. Another challenge for me was related to note-taking. A lot of times, I would take a lot of notes in my classes, but I would be about 5 to 10 seconds behind the material that was being presented. The challenge that this presented was that I wasn't actively engaged in the learning process at that moment because I was still on material that was already covered. Another challenge for me was not being in an environment that was very interactive or collaborative. By not being in an environment that was very collaborative, I was just a student in the class trying to take notes, taking in a bunch of information that was directed at me, but I wasn't actually actively engaged, learning the material and thinking about the material and what it actually meant to me. This is the reason that in my classes, I like to create a very interactive and a very personal environment starting on the first night. One of the things that I do is I learn all of my students' names on the first night so that I can start calling on each student by name. By calling on each student by name, it allows me to connect with each student in a very personal way. It also conveys that I care about that student. Another thing that I do in my classes is I provide my students with all of my notes. By providing my students with all of my notes, they don't have to worry about taking notes in class unless they want to. They can focus on the process of learning because they know that they have the material that they're going to need to fall back on and review later. Another thing that I do for my students is to create a very collaborative environment so that my students are engaged in the process of question and answer. This approach allows me to have a one-on-one conversation with individual students, but also to probe a little bit further to make sure that the material is fully understood. But also sometimes it leads to conversations that are not directly related to the material that's being covered at that moment, but still adds a lot of benefit. And in this way, the entire class gets the benefit of learning a lot of different information that may not otherwise have been covered in the class. By creating a collaborative environment so that all students are going through the process together to learn the information together, it creates an organization that is a learning organization so that each individual in the class is able to help each other because each individual is learning about the information, but the organization is learning as a whole. And the net benefit is to everyone in the class, including me. So if you're a passive student, this style can work for you because you're still receiving all the information that you need. It's just that you're going to receive the benefit of all the other discussion that's occurring in the classroom. And if you're an active student, it'll provide you with all the information that you need, and it'll allow you to actively be engaged in the learning process and to make the connections to the material beyond just the terminology or a one-way delivery of information that is typically received in a passive approach. So these are some of the things that work for me, and that's why I'm sharing them with you so that hopefully it'll help you in selecting an instructor that works best for your learning style. I hope these tips work for you. I wish you the best on your journey. Good luck to you.